What is going on, everybody? In today's video, and continuing the lead up to New Year's, we are going to be discussing some of my top 10 characters that I think were actually really amazing at their peak, but just have fallen off into bench territory. Now, some of these have been benched for some time, some of them much more recently, but they without a doubt all had an impact on this game, and I want to acknowledge that and give a tribute to our fallen soldiers on the roster who unfortunately either are really well off on their way or just more recently been given their retirement check. So without further ado, let's get this heartfelt show started. And starting this show off at number 10 is going to be Yoyo of the Inhumans. Now, for those of you who may be newer to the game of Marvel Strike Force, you may not understand how powerful of a character that Yoyo really was, and she's actually still decent of a character. You might run into her from time to time in certain, I think she's like in Doom Raid 1. I don't know if she's actually in Doom Raid 2 or not, but she was a really good character, and the main reason for it is because of her passive. Now, in terms of when she came out, I believe it was either December 2019 or January 2020. I honestly cannot remember, so she's about 2 years old probably at this point, but really it's this part of her passive here, and it's at the top. On enemy turn, if this character has no other protector allies, apply offense down to that enemy. This cannot be dodged. Now, there is kind of like a Dark Dimension version of this, aka with Ghost, but Yoyo was one of the first sort of characters that applied this on the enemy turn. So as long as she had the focus to apply this debuff, she was constantly, and you would see the animation, you know, she like runs right across the screen, and it's really noticeable here that it was a really powerful thing, because as long as she could land this, characters were constantly with offense down. Now, the only other issue is that, of course, you can't run any other protector allies in this, so when you are using, and she is a protector, if you're running this with the Inhumans team, she is the sole protector on that team. But if you're running her outside of that team, or with Shield, for example, because she also has the Shield tag, that you have to really be careful that, for example, Nick Fury didn't drop down his summons. Some of those would be Shield securities, which would disable this passive, or any other characters that you might accidentally use alongside her who happen to be protectors and you didn't realize it. So I'm looking at Phyla-Vell, because she's not a traditional tank, but she has the protector tag anyways. Invisible Woman, same deal, not a traditional taunt tank, but has the protector tag. Some of these characters I've made the mistake of running side by side with Yoyo, and I'm like, why doesn't it work? But either way, it was really powerful. The duo of Yoyo and Black Bolt were very arena meta for a long time. Still a very powerful character. It makes me wonder what is actually going to happen to Yoyo. I wasn't one of those characters, those people who took Yoyo to like Gear Tier 14 and above, but I know a lot of people did. So I'm curious what they're going to do with her in the future, if they are going to do anything with her, if they're going to expand on the Shield tag or the Inhuman tag or what. I don't know which direction they're going to go with her, but I think this is a very important nod to the first character on this list that I want to kind of give tribute to. So that's Yoyo in at number 10. And coming in at number 9 is going to be Hela. I was actually not sure if I was going to make Hela number 9 or number 8. So when we get to number 8, we'll kind of figure out why the two are kind of similar in a lot of ways. Hela was a really powerful character that came out in November, I believe it's November, of 2019. So this was at a time when they were bringing out the Asgardian team and really just transforming that alongside Thor and Loki, who are already in the game, with Hela, Sif, and Heimdall. Now, these characters were also used to unlock Black Bolt later on, but Hela as a character was just really, really good. She was actually the thing, she was kind of power creep when she first came out, because her damage was really high. Despite her base stats being like, kind of meh now, her health is actually pretty low, but her damage stat was very respectable when she came out, and her passive, which summoned the infamous Greg that we all know, the undead Asgardian, who is now nicknamed Greg, and the backstory behind that, in case people didn't understand that, is because that in the coding that was nicknamed Greg. I guess it was easier to say Greg than Undead Asgardian, so that's the whole reason why that nickname kind of stuck. But, because of him, whenever he dies, you guys know that, you lose 10% turn bar from everyone, which is crazy. And there's a lot of manipulations that you can do with this. You can actually, and we're going to get there when we talk about character number 8, and how, like, this can be manipulated with Hela to summon multiple Gregs with, you know, even just one Hela, and how you can have, and on the, it's crazy stuff. The damage actually was pretty respectable in terms of the blowing up, the Dark Sacrifice part, and, you know, a really good summon. And so I really want to give that a nod. She could also spread all negative status effects here. Actually, no, sorry, 4, but it's almost all, you know, at that point of the game, it was basically everything, and it would spread to all of the targets on the map. And this was really good, really powerful as well. As far as the damage goes, 350% was quite respectable at that time. I know the numbers are a little bit higher now, but Hela was a really great character, and unfortunately, she gets that kind of, she's been benched for a little while. That's why she's at the bottom of the list here, basically. But she was such an incredibly good character. I took her to Dark Dimension for Cosmic, but I really wouldn't recommend doing things like this now, because not only are there far better Mystic characters, but they're far better Cosmic characters as well. So that's Hela, unfortunately, at number 9. Let's talk about number 8. And coming in at number 8 is going to be Minerva of the Kree, or aka Minerva of the BK team, if you remember Best Kree team. So Minerva, kind of alongside Hela, and this is why I kind of wanted to do them side by side here at 9 and 8. Now, some of the tricks that you could use with Minerva was what I was talking about Hela, was that actually if Hela died, but one of the Gregs were still on the field, you could actually use Minerva's special, which revives allies, and that would bring back Hela, triggering a second Greg. So this is what's called the double Greg or the triple Greg, previously used in things like Dark Dimension primarily. Things that were like very long, that you could somehow trigger that, and that was an easy way to get multiple Gregs on the field for long battles and long matches like Dark Dimension. Now, Minerva was the quintessential healer for a long time. We had Night Nurse way back in the day, like an Ultimate 6.5, I think it was, and then Minerva came out to the game, and she just crushed it. She was like the main healer that you had to have for a good chunk of the game. Like probably at least a year. She came out in a campaign event style, but then she was made in a premium orb exclusive for quite some time. I don't remember the exact figures without going back to my spreadsheet, but it was a very long time. And unfortunately now, Minerva, despite having her at Gear Tier 15, I did use her once again in Dark Dimension 4 Cosmic, is not a character that I would really consider building now. She is in the War Store, but there's also Maria Hill in the War Store, who is a much better healer at this point in time, and better stats-wise than she is now. So unfortunately, Minerva is one of our other fallen soldiers. Great healer, great support character that lasts us a very long time in Marvel Strike Force, but unfortunately, she's just, you know, she's benched. and I don't think that this is coming back anytime soon. I think she really had her time in the sun. I don't see anything coming back for her personally, but hey, you never know, because in this game, reworks do happen. So let's move on to number 7. Okay, and so coming in at number 7 is going to be Ultron. Now, this is an interesting one, and the reason why he came in at number 7 and not one of the other ones, 8 or 9, is mainly because he was given Red Star promotions. Now, this was actually not too long ago. I think it was probably less than 6 months ago, but unfortunately, this never actually got me to use him much more than I already did. I didn't actually take the bait on the Red Stars other than this one Red Star promotion that you can see here, but I never did take him further to 2, 3, 4. Does he have 5? Like, I don't even know anymore. But I'm pretty sure you could take him at least a 4. But now that we have Dr. Doom in the 5 red for purchasing in the dark credits, I really don't think it's worth doing this. I kind of hope that maybe he sees something in the near future, some sort of villain tech, combo that would make him really good. Ultron was incredibly good when he first came out in Dark Dimension 2 as the winner, and people used him for a very long time, probably at least a year plus. So he definitely got his time in the sun, and he really was great. I maybe in the future, if we get like ability upgrades, I would love to see some improvements on his summons. Maybe give him some sort of like tank bot or like a defensive bot, because I know it exists, but it never actually made it into the kit. So there's a lot of things that you could probably do with Ultron. He has like 3 different bots. That's my favorite thing about Ultron, is his summons are so great. You get the offense up buff here. You get the speed up with the accelerator, who knocks back turn bar on his basic, and you get the kind of the healer green one here that cleanses, and all of them, when they use their special, gives them a turn bar to Ultron, and his big blast is perfect charge system was so strong when it first came out. It just basically decimated any character and essentially any tank that had like defense up. It was amazing, and he'd get ability energy per positive effect, which was like crazy because he had a lot from his bots. Great character, but unfortunately, once again, just like some of the other characters on this list, he is not so great. But the costume is cool, and I do like it. I actually really like the What If cartoon episode. Unfortunately, though, yeah, unfortunately didn't improve his usability. But that's Ultron at number 7. Now we're kind of getting into some of the more recent character releases, so we're in at Red Guardian at number 6. Now Red Guardian was released actually in January of this year, so this was the winter patch of last year, I guess the December, January of last year, and Red Guardian came out at a time where this was meant to be for the Skilletary rework, but also he was a very solid sort of copy and paste tank when he first came out. This was prior to Capsam, which we'll talk about, because unfortunately Capsam kind of obliterated the use of Red Guardian, but for here, you know, Red Guardian has Spawn Taunt, and this isn't something that we saw until the days, or sorry, since Drax, because Drax was really the only character with Spawn Taunt, and then Red Guardian came out and kind of just blew that out of the water. Not only gained Spawn Taunt, but he gained defense up, which is something that Drax never really had. Also gives all of these buffs to skill military allies as well, of course, and that's even outside of Alliance War. The Skilletary team, of course, is more meant for Alliance War, but he had a lot of great, you know, parts of his passive that bumped skill military outside of War, so that was really nice too. He had a really good kit, actually, and he was usable in the first iteration of Doom War for a strike, but also Doom War 1 in the skill lane. He was kind of that answer for a long time because there wasn't really a usable good set of characters, and then this came out, and Red Guardian is why I geared him to gear tier 15. It was not for global Dark Dimension or anything like this. It was actually for skill raid, but then Capsam came out, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 months later and kind of basically blew him out of the water, but he still had a really good time. You know, he could taunt here on a cooldown of 4, but he'd heal as well with his taunt. That was nice, despite me not having too many T4s on him. He was still a really good tank, and I have him at about 129k, so he definitely, you know, got some work out of me, and I really loved using him, and I still kind of like him. It's just unfortunately the skill military team isn't really worth, you know, building up any significant degree, and he's not worth using at this point for skill rate. But I do want to give him a nice nod. Red Guardian, you can finally retire yourself for now, but I did enjoy using him, so that's Red Guardian at number 6. Okay, and now we're moving into the top 5. Now, I was kind of on the fence, to be honest, whether or not Black Bolt would be would be 5 or 6. You know, maybe as far as when I stopped using these characters, maybe Black Bolt should have actually been 6 and Red Guardian should have been 5, but here we are anyways. So maybe because Black Bolt's a legendary, that's why I decided to move him up. Anyways, Black Bolt was really good when he came out, but he stayed relevant for a good chunk of time. You know, I think that it was probably at least a full year. So he came out in like February, maybe late January, early February of 2020. And, you know, I think I was still using him largely up until, I would probably say, the year after. So probably until early of this year, I was still using him to a good degree, but he was slowly falling off. Now, you notice that I don't have him at Gear Tier 15, so I never did take him into Dark Dimension 4, but I did take him into Dark Dimension 3 Cosmic, and that's where I got a lot of use out of him there, because that was before, really, they had the Legendary lane and all of that. Unfortunately, Inhumans are not so good anymore, but I'm really hoping that Black Bolt gets a resurgence a la some new characters for the Inhuman team. I think a lot of us are maybe hoping that an Inhuman Royal Team Resurgence comes back for 2022. Sorry, excuse me. And I think that maybe they're hoping that characters like Medusa or Gorgon, who are probably the most and maybe Maximus as well. You know, I think these are the 3 most likely characters to come out, at least for the Inhumans team, perhaps alongside Black Bolt and Crystal, you know, because I think Crystal, next to Yoyo, who is more of a shield character, but Crystal is probably the most relevant in terms of the royal family. Karnak is kind of in there, but he's Is he a member of the royal family? I actually don't know too much about the Inhumans in general, but I would love to see some of these characters come to the game nonetheless. Black Bolt just really crushed it. He came out as a way to counter Ultron, who we previously talked about, because he just obliterates villain tech characters with his little ping or burp or whatever you want to call it, because it does 200% damage, but 400% damage if they're villain tech, when an enemy is basically in the red, and it's a good way to just kill them off, because any characters killed by Black Bolt can't be revived. So this was a very common tactic to use, and it was just a significant amount of damage. You still kind of run into Black Bolt from time to time in Doom Raid, so I don't know if it's in Doom Raid 2, but I know he's definitely in Doom Raid 1, especially in that tech lane, which is kind of pesky. But Black Bolt definitely served his time. Let's see if he does get a resurgence, though. I wouldn't mind seeing him once again come out, again, but you would need some other characters to really beef him up. So that's Black Bolt in at number 5, the first of the top 5. Coming in at number 4 is Mr. Sinister. Now, this is a little bit of an unfortunate one. I actually really love Mr. Sinister. I have him maxed out, so clearly there's a reason I do like him. Even his basics maxed out for me. You know, Mr. Sinister is such a fun character, and I had a lot of fun using him. I used him in Dark Dimension 4 Global, not Dark Dimension 5. I think a lot of people really enjoyed using him in Dark Dimension 4 Global because there were so many characters that you could clone with Mr. Sinister that made that a lot more enjoyable and a lot easier because of all the clone army. Any character that any content creator that you watch running Dark Dimension 4 back when it came out, a lot of people were using Mr. Sinister. Not only was there kind of a lack of good mutant characters to bring with you, but there was some good synergy here with Mr. Sinister and Emma Frost, who is not going to be on this list at all. I still think that Emma Frost is actually used a little bit more now. I don't know if that's because of the Eternals and the speed meta, just the basis around her kit, but yeah, she did not make this list, but Mr. Sinister did, because I'm just not really using him as much as I once did. He's kind of just sitting there on the ward defense with the Marauders, which is kind of like a mixed bag for me right now. So I kind of want to use him for more, but I just don't think he's going to make a gear tier 16 for me. I honestly can't even take him up to like green ISO 5, so he's kind of stuck where he is, but a super fun character because of his clone mechanics. So I can definitely see this coming back, and there might be some future use for this. I don't know. At this time, I don't see it, but definitely something like an interesting kit that never really got old. So we'll see if this cloning function like ever comes back, or we see some additional characters maybe in the Marauders, or if Mr. Sinister gets some sort of additional tag rework. I don't know. But Mr. Sinister did have his time in the sun as well. Had a lot of fun using him, and so he deserves a mention in this top list. Poor Thanos, man. I have a 7 red Thanos. My partner also has a 7 red Thanos. And, Black Order definitely had a great ride. Thanos also had a really great ride before Black Order, and I actually had the 7 red for Thanos before Black Order was announced. Now, it's funny because still he does not have that Black Order tag, so I get it. Yes, the Black Order is like Thanos' minions, but like I really feel they should have just gave him the tag. Not only was it just significantly easier to find, in the roster if he had the Black Order tag, but now, it's, whatever, that's in the past. I used him significantly before because his Titan Eternal passive was so great. The fact that he would generate 2 ability energy for self or adjacent cosmic ally on death. People may remember the BKT team, which really involved Thanos, so it was like Thanos, Rocket, Minerva, it was just like a constant killing spree. AoE, and then he would generate more energy, and then Rocket would be next to Thanos, and it would just go back and forth, and people would just die all the time. Now, when Black Order came out, of course, he got Thanos, the Empowered Thanos version. Now, this was a lot of fun as well, and this was arena meta for like a year. Like, basically a full year. So Ebony Maw came out at around, maybe he should have been on the list too. But I decided to put Thanos on here instead. You know what? Ebony Maw probably should have been in this top 10. That's totally my bad. But anyways, Thanos is here instead at number 3. This was a lot of fun. It was basically June 2010, when Ebony Maw came out. And then it was basically until Infinity Watch, more or less. Maybe Silver Surfer. But Silver Surfer Infinity Watch is when Black Order basically got demolished and nobody was using them anymore. But this was a really, really powerful team. Anywhere that you could combine the 5 characters, the 4 Black Order and Thanos, they just rolled over everything. They're still really strong in Alliance War, but they've kind of been demolished now by like the Eternals, who can like 2-man this team. However, they really had a great run. You know, they had a very long run in Arena, actually probably some of the longest in the Arena meta at a year. They were still like almost powerful anywhere you could use them, like I said. Really fun kit, you know, Celestial Barrage with Thanos. He would just like bring down a meteor or whatever that's supposed to be. He would like snap his fingers, he would time shift, flip everything, both negatives and positives. You know, he had a really great kit, and this was a lot of fun. And when I heard the announcement that Thanos was getting a rework and he was becoming empowered, I had a 7 red, and I was like, oh my god, I can't wait. So that patch was for me, and that was actually the most amount of money I ever spent in this game, was the Black Order patch, because I had a 7 red Thanos and I was like, okay, I need to get all of these characters, I need to get the Black Order, I need to make sure I get Ebony Maw. I probably spent about $150 to $200 on that patch, or that's those set of characters, and that was the most I ever spent in this game on my account, was like that time in 2020. So definitely I had a lot of fun during this period of time, but maybe that was because I had a 7 red. Anyways, that is Thanos and Empower Thanos, number 3 on this list. Let's get to number 2. Oh boy, so I think you guys probably saw this coming because of things I've been talking about lately. So Silver Surfer, number 2. Now, yeah, I might get some flack for talking about number 2 and number 1. I think you guys probably know what's coming after this. But Silver Surfer, oh man. So he came out in like March, mid-March, I think, 2011, this year. And he basically was the beginning of the end, I think, of Black Order. So he made it significantly easier to take out the Black Order via his ultimate, and because he just had he basically had a shoe-in against villain cosmic characters. I believe he gained like extra, yeah. So he gained additional resistance against villain cosmic if they were there, and he gained focus if he was alongside another hero cosmic character. So, and he lowered resistance by 50% for all enemies with heal block, making it very easy for him to land his ultimate, which cleared immunity, and that's because a lot of the Black Order, or all the Black Order, as long as you had Ebony Maw, would spawn with immunity. So this cleared the immunity, and then it applied ability block, clears charges for those characters with charges. This is still really good in some instances, but specifically the apply ability block for 2 turns. This would cripple Cull Obsidian, so basically he couldn't taunt, and this kind of like basically was the downfall of the Black Order, alongside some other support characters, but Silver Surfer made this really easy. Also on his passive, I forgot to mention that on any turn, he heals for 5% of his max health. So this would trigger quite quickly. If you had like summons or anything like this, then he would actually heal up very fast. And if he wasn't heal blocked, oh man, this was crazy. He also gained 15% speed per turn up to a max of 45%. So by turn 3, he would have a plus 45% speed. His speed is already like pretty high. 126, so an additional 45% on top of that. I don't have the math, but you know, that's probably just off the top of my head, probably in the 185, 190-ish category, and it was really high, and he was taking his turns like nobody's business, and he had serious damage. Unfortunately, and we were using him in the Doom Raid Mystic for a long portion of time, until most recently the Eternals patch, which kind of bumped him off, and also one other, who is going to be the talk of the final entry on this list. So get prepared, because you're probably going to know what's coming anyways, but I'm going to talk about it too. So let's get started to number 1. So I'm sorry that I have to do this, because I already had a video on this recently, but I have to bring it up again. So Adam Warlock is going to be the number 1 character on this list, aka the most recent character in my opinion, who is a really great character, but has been more recently benched. So where is he being benched? He's being benched in a lot of places that he was previously being used in. To some degree, I have to say that he is being benched to some degree in Arena. You know, for those newer players who never even had him anyways, don't worry about it, because you don't actually need him. People are still using Infinity Watch in Arena, whether it's on offense or defense, but you don't have to do this. So, you know, for those people who have already built him, are going to be still using him without a doubt. But for people who are coming up the way, who just unlocked him, you might actually not sure if you want to gear him or not. And just, you know, at the end of the day, you're not using him in as many places as you were 6 months ago. And it's really unfortunate for me to say this. You know, he's been absolutely kicked off Doom Raid Mystic. There's absolutely no reason to run him in Doom Raid Mystic when you have characters like the New Warriors and the Eternals. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever. He also shares, unfortunately, you know, the same unique that so many other characters do, which is the miasma. So there's a lot of characters, concurrent members that you're using, whether it's Doom, whether it's Deathpool, whether it's Cloak, characters that kind of need this stuff more than he does, unfortunately, at this point in time. He's a really good, great character, and without him, there is no safeguard for the Infinity Watch team. So, yeah, he is amazing, but you just don't really need him anymore. And, you know, this may be controversial, but hey, you know, there was a lot of bad, negative comments on my video when I told people not to build Adam Warlock. It still hasn't changed. My thoughts on Adam Warlock is exactly the same. Yeah, I have him in Gear Tier 15, and I got a lot of use out of him. Unfortunately, he didn't last as long as I thought he would. I actually thought that maybe we would have had a few more months after the Eternals were released, but nope, you know, the Eternals kind of basically decimated a lot of that. As long as you had the right support characters alongside the Eternals, that you don't actually need Adam Warlock, and you can beat a full Infinity Watch Adam Warlock team anyways with the Eternals and a handful of support characters. So, yeah, that's Adam Warlock. Unfortunately, he is probably one of the quicker ones to get bumped off on this list, because even Silver Surfer, I would have said, probably just lasted a little bit longer than he did. So, yeah, that's the roundup of my top 10 great characters, and I want to stress that these are great characters, or were great characters, but they just aren't that way anymore. At least not as much as they were. So that's the end of the list and the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please smash that like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see y'all later. Boilon signing out.